Hi there, Hollywood Lifers. It's Bonnie. I'm here with Vicki Ziegler today. She's a family law attorney, a very top family law attorney, mind you. And we're going to talk about Kim Kardashian and Kris Humphries and about his case. He is trying to prove that Kim married him fraudulently. That means that she didn't really intend to have a real marriage, and therefore he wants an annulment. Now, Kris is a religious guy, apparently, and so he's doing it for religious reasons. He's very upset about the divorce. However, I think he also is just plain angry. He feels that he really was lured into a marriage that wasn't real. And now I'm talking to Vicki about this and about how hard it is to prove, or maybe it isn't hard to prove. And so she's got some really interesting things to share with you. And so, Vicki, tell us, when you go for an annulment, when you try and get an annulment, and you say that it's because the marriage was a fraud, what does that mean?
All right, so Bonnie, this is so interesting to me. An annulment really is the legal challenge to say somebody got married to me deceitfully, fraudulently. They never actually wanted to marry me. There was a reason behind it that was illicit. So this is not about getting divorced. At this point, it's about saying this marriage never happened. It should be voided. And what happens generally in courts, you have to take testimony. If one person fights it, and here Kim Kardashian is saying, oh no, I'm not agreeing or consenting that there should be an annulment granted. She's saying that there should be a divorce, and there's a big distinction. And until a judge makes that decision, and here's all the evidence, we don't know what's going to happen yet. So this could be very interesting.
Right, so we don't know what's going to happen, but he wants an annulment, so he wants it ruled that the marriage never existed because it wasn't entered into in good faith on at least, he's saying on her part. He is saying that he went into the marriage with the best of intentions, and he's saying that she did not. Now, she is saying she just wants a straight divorce. They had a prenup, and so this should be a very simple divorce without having to divide any assets. Now, why does he have any right to say that the marriage was a fraud?
All right, so generally anybody can come to the court and say, listen, you married me deceitfully. You actually induced me in a fraudulent way to actually get married. And what does that actually mean? Somehow, you never promised to stay married to me for the rest of my life. You really weren't in love with me, but you have to be able to prove it in a court of law. You can say anything you want, but the backup. So what's he gonna say? You never intended to move in with me. We saw in the recent Kardashian episode.
Right, the finale, where he was packing his boxes. He wanted to move 10 or 15 boxes into her house in LA, and she was refusing and telling him he could just bring a bag, and that when he was packing his boxes, it kept making her suffocated. It was giving her panic attacks, suffocating her.
Most people get married and they want to live together.
Yes.
They don't want to live separately. So
Yes.
That's a very good piece of evidence, if in fact that is an authentic tape, and we'll perhaps discuss that actually she never intended to move in with him. And that's a vital proposition as it relates to getting married. That's something that is the underbelly of marriage. Two people in a union get married, they love each other, and they live together. So that's one component. The second, and I think...
So what you're saying is that Kris could actually use the Kourtney and Kim Takes New York finale, and plus the previous episode they were talking about it a bit, in his favor to prove that she never intended to live with him.
Absolutely. I think that will be a crucial piece of evidence if in fact this does get tried as it relates to fraud. The underbelly of fraud, the purpose of fraud is to say, wait a second, you never intended to live with me and get married, and we never could make that decision because you really never wanted to be with me. You never wanted me to stay married forever, and here's the proof. The video speaks for itself. Go to the videotape. You didn't even want me to bring my boxes to California. We were never going to live together, so how could actually this marriage be real? It was a sham. It was a fake. That's his argument.
Well, now you also mentioned to me that in a real marriage, that the husband and wife are supposed to be supportive of each other, and that the show doesn't show Kim being supportive or affectionate affectionate
Right.
with him.
At all.
She's always very cold with him, and she isn't supportive. Like when he wants to go make a personal appearance in Toronto, she basically said it's a bad idea. Why would you want to do that? Meanwhile, it's okay for her to go and do personal appearances for her business.
Right. Once they got married, she acted as if she was living this own independent life. She wasn't a cohesive unit, and that's going to be tangential evidence. It's not
Well,
gonna
she
be
also
major.
in the film of the videos, of the finale, said we never hang out together. She said that.
Right. They didn't do anything together in their short marriage. So I guess that the argument that Kris will use is, hey, listen, see all this footage, everything she said, she didn't want to be with me, wasn't supportive, she wasn't a loving wife, and she never intended to be. That's the part of the element of fraud that you need to be able to prove, for Kris Humphries to be able to prove, in order to actually have this judge void this marriage. So there's a lot of good footage. Her going to Dubai without him.
And he said he wanted to go, and she said she told him no.
Yeah. I mean, flat out, how do you not want your spouse to accompany you, especially when you're only a couple weeks into your marriage? Most newlyweds they can't get off each other. They want to touch each other and hug and love and be together. That was never the case with this marriage from the get-go. And a court of law is going to say, judge sitting there may say to themselves, wait a second, these people got married and they never acted as man and wife, especially Kim. She never put on the wife role. And what does that say? Perhaps she never wanted to be married or stay married, and maybe there was a fraudulent purpose.
Right. And I want to just point out one last thing. She also told the cameras that she was having so many major issues with Kris by the time his sister Kayla came to visit them, that she didn't want to see Kayla because she didn't want to put on a happy face. Now, we looked into when Kayla actually came to New York and visited. That was September 13th. It was only 14 days basically after they returned from their honeymoon. So how can you be having such major issues, especially when there was no cheating going on, there was no abuse? I mean, we know there wasn't. If there was, believe us. I mean, we would have seen it on camera. But it would have been on camera, or would have been in magazines, it would have been leaked. So there was none of those big issues. But within 14 days, oh, here's the other thing, and I'm going to get your opinion. I'm sorry, Hollywood Lifers, this is long tape. She never, ever mentioned her wedding gifts, writing thank you notes, looking at a photo album, looking at video. Like, they never, ever discussed the wedding. She never talked about putting her wedding dress in storage.
Right.
Does that show indication, both the Kayla example that she was having major issues 14 days after the honeymoon, and the fact that she didn't act like a normal bride? There was no discussion of any aftermath of the wedding.
Yeah, I think that's going to be part and parcel of the case, of the Kris Humphries case. He's going to show all of the things that you've said and even more. You cannot change your affection for somebody within 14 days if nothing significant happened. It just doesn't happen that way. And I think they're going to go to the videotape on the wedding, the special, and really take a look at her. I love you, you're reciting your vows. All of those things indicate that somebody actually wanted to get married, and then her behavior thereafter is exactly the opposite. So was it a fake? Was it just because she needed a husband to actually do this extravaganza wedding and make all this money? That's going to be the bigger argument. And all of these things we've discussed here, the videotapes, the way she's acted towards him, and the way she's not acted as a wife, is really going to play into whether or not the judge is going to grant the
So
annulment.
could even not looking at wedding photos, doing an album, anything like that, indicate that she didn't intend to keep the marriage? Therefore, why would you even look at your wedding photos and make an album?
I think so. Never cooking for him, never actually going on dates with him, actually never having family gatherings. I mean, this is what people do when they get married. They want to be a family unit. She never did any of those things in such a short time frame, and then she filed for divorce without getting counseling, without trying to make it work, without salvaging it. Something doesn't make sense. There's a piece of this whole puzzle we don't know.
So Hollywood Lifers, so Vicki tells me that there's a very good chance that this case will end up in court, and it will be a public court that the media can go to, that anybody who lines up public member can go to, and that Kim will have to answer the questions truthfully. She'll be under oath. And unlike a criminal case, she cannot plead the fifth.
Yeah, you're good. Absolutely. In the civil court, you have to answer the question truthfully and honestly. She can't say, I don't know. Well, she can say, I don't know, but then they're going to press her even more. She can't say, I'm not going to answer that question because I have a Fifth Amendment privilege to do so. It doesn't work in civil court, only in criminal court. It's a family court case. Remember that. There's a judge, not a jury, and she has to answer those questions. So it's going to be so interesting to see if, in fact, it gets to trial, what is going to be asked of her. What is her demeanor? Is she going to cry? Is she going to be aggressive? Is she the damsel in distress? Is she the martyr? I can't wait if that gets to that point to see what's going to happen. I may fly out there just to see it.
So what we're saying here is this could be in court. This could be in court. It could be on film. It could be televised. It could be a whole other real reality show that the Kardashians weren't planning for.
Nope.
Well, wow, my mind, I am blown away by this.
Love it.
So, Hollywood Lifers, there you have it from Vicki Ziegler, top family attorney. Bye.